Now we have to do the wrap-up session. I would like to ask the initial planning committee for this conference to come up front as close as possible, so we can all field the questions and make decisions and some answers maybe. So, Daryl, can you bring me up? Kate? Patty? Everybody who was on the initial planning committee, please come forward. Come up and take one of the tables up here. Okay, if we can get started, we need to wrap it up. I think we're overdoing the rent in the ballroom here, so. Sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Pepion. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you to please file your glowing evaluation forms with the front desk. Right, Patty? They just turn them in the front, right? These evaluation forms. Very important for the continuance of our discussions here. So we're here at the 3 o'clock session. And I've asked the members of the Conference Planning Committee to come forward and to lead the discussion on what's next, or as I call it, walking the talk. The last 2 days, the last year and a half, we've been talking about intersection of Indigenous knowledge, research, ownership, intellectual property, all of the bywords, the standard words. Now we need to talk about what's next for the Indigenous people in our region, concerning their intellectual property rights, the preservation of their intellectual property, passing on of the knowledge that they wish to pass on, and preserving that knowledge that they wish to preserve. Okay, what I'd like to do to lead the forum is just to, if you have a comment or a question, or if you have a suggestion, because actually I think that we're open for any suggestion you have concerning what's next. Just like Sam Deloria said this morning, you know, we go to conferences and you talk, and then what do? Do you walk, or what do you do next? Okay, this conference was under the auspices of certain departments of the University of Montana, and we all know that there's great intellectual ethics, great interdepartmental ethics at the University of Montana, so we should have no problems in talking with each other about this. But we need to know what you think about it. What do we do now? Yes, Dave, what do we do now? Took your microphone, huh? We really do want to know what you think about what the direction is now. Where are we going to go?
Is this on?
Yes.
I'd like to pick up on Tom Campbell's question from earlier. I mentioned this during my presentation in the last hour, that it wouldn't be unreasonable to include a kind of criteria of eligibility for researchers in the IRBs that actually require kind of training in cross-cultural knowledge. that's kind of specific thing. After Tom's question, I looked at the model IRB maybe too briefly on the website, and I'm not sure that it addresses that yet, and that might be a very specific direction to go in.
My question would be, is that the role of the IRB? Is that the role of an IRB to require researchers to have certain eligibility criteria? Or is it the role of possibly the tribal ethics group or the governing boards? Just a question.
The role of the IRB?
Hi, I'm on the Institutional Review Board for the university, but I didn't hear the question. Yeah? Does it work? Okay, I have to spin it into it, but... Okay.
Oh, okay. The question is this really the role of an IRB to require researchers? I mean, you're required to put forth your credentials. However, the IRB, at least as I understand it, where I'm from Alaska, the Alaska area IRB is there for individual protections, human subjects protections. Our tribal review process is a little different, and we look to protect the tribal entities and the community at large. So I'm just wondering, is that really, can that be considered part of the role of an IRB?
Well, the IRBs are set up to protect vulnerable populations and individuals. So a vulnerable population would be if you're studying disabled people or children, or I just got on the Institutional Review Board here at the university because I think that that's the little loophole we need here for the research review to be more informed and thorough. That somehow the Institutional Review Board has to understand the ways in which tribal people are vulnerable. And it's easier to understand it through, to set up something rigid like you have to go through the tribal council to do something. We've had these conversations here about how certain programs within tribes are actually the entities that ultimately have to approve whether they want to work with a researcher on some project, not the tribal council. So those kinds of protocol need to have some reflection that if the researcher is dealing with Native American populations, I just mentioned this to the IRB because we met this week. I told them about something that had slipped through the committee this year that ended up in my lap, and it was clear to me that the researcher didn't know what she was doing. So I think they're conscientious people, but coming from a Western point of view and having more to do with individuals. But this year we did have one proposal that was a vulnerable indigenous population in another country. And I won't go into detail, but I found the IRB they were pretty astute to the understanding of how that population could be affected by this because they were very poor. It was a technology kind of grant. I can't identify, it's a confidential matter. but I did think they were fairly